So I thought one of two things was going to happen in the final episode of Loner Life in Another World. That was either a singular word would be said by Angelica, or they were going to cut it off as she was about to speak, and ultimately, we wouldn't hear what she said. And when you actually look up who's behind the VA, because there is a VA up to this point, you might have been a little shooketh to know that. But the VA for Angelica is known for works like Your Forger from Spy Family. This isn't some random VA. This is actually a VA with a lot of experience under their belt. And when you cast someone as high profile as them for a role that has barely any dialogue for most of their runtime, it's kind of funny because it's like, what even was the point? Because up to this point, really, she had ASMR reading and 3 words said, wait and thank you. And what makes it so funny is the fact that you have someone of this experience getting hired for probably 5 minutes worth of line reading, because all she did, this was probably the most speaking role she had, and it was basically ASMR breathing. I have to imagine, because currently there's no season 2 announcement from what I can see, but I have to imagine she was already recording stuff for a different show, and they just needed someone, and they said, hey, you got 5 minutes here? No, granted, if we got a season 2, would she talk more? Probably, but still, it cracks me up because it's like, imagine casting Matthew Mercer, any of these high-profile video game VAs, and they say 3 words and some breathing. It's just, it cracks me up, but I think it's one of the few Isekais that's gonna get away with it. I got full live reactions over on Patreon if you want to see my full and good thought to any of this Loner Life in Another World greatness. It's over there exclusively. So, honestly, I ain't gonna lie, the final episode actually made my excitement for a potential season 2 more than probably anything that came before. And I think it's a testament to how interesting of a character Angelica is. Nothing extraordinary that we haven't seen before, but in general, I thought their banter and their simplistic scenes together in the woods and then obviously in their little cabin, it was just very adorable and sweet and wholesome and funny, and they even managed to have flirtatious fan service, but managed to do it in a slightly different way that just made it all the funnier. There was something about the episode that made me say, season 2, it's not needed. We could leave it off here, but damn would a season 2 be fun, especially because I could see so many ways they keep the gimmicks just evolving. So ultimately, the big thing in this episode is that the girls first learn that Angelica actually has a human body. It's not just a skeleton underneath that armor anymore, which they do confirm in the episode. It's a combination of, all these different items combining together to remove effects and give her life back. It wasn't just simply a subjugation or anything like that. It was a combination of us clearing so many different floors and her. So it is all Haruka's fault, but, it's a happy accident, all things considered. And then Haruka decides, hey, I can finally be a loner again, right? He pretty much asks class rep, class rep is his mom, hey, can I leave? And she's like, as long as you come back someday. It's just so silly. I love it. And he ends up taking, obviously, armor rep, aka Angelica. And it was just very cute to see them together because over the course of a couple of days that they spent together, they kind of felt like a couple. And I like the fact too that even Haruka wasn't completely oblivious to this by the end. I mean, initially at the very end, he ends up holding her hand to, run, oh shit, the rain's coming in, we gotta get together, and then everyone sees them together holding hands. I'm actually surprised class rep didn't show more of a freak out, but then again, if she is the class rep, she does have to be the kind of political figure that keeps everyone together, and in secret, she's probably screaming in her pillow saying, God, why wasn't that me? But in general, in a singular episode, now granted, did we have content with Angelica before this? Sure, but this was the episode that truly was them interacting without threats. And it just made me say, damn, if there's any ship in this series I'd want to see sail, it's probably this one right here. And just, I like, too, the reason why she doesn't just immediately speak out. Now, this is just what Haruka says, but it's what I was assuming as well. If she hadn't spoken in years, decades, centuries, who knows how long she was dead for, right? It probably would be hard to speak. Not to mention, maybe there's just nerves to it too. I don't know, I feel like something I've said throughout the show is that at face value, the show doesn't appear like much, but there's so many little details that unironically turn the show into something a little deeper. Whether that's how they handled the mechanics of the powers and how they combine different effects and skills. Better than just, I cast Fireball. It's okay, I have to do this magical container to capture an element, and then I can kind of use that element, as seen by, he did it again in this episode, the fishing. He dropped lightning into the, electricity into the water there. Or just the idea of how they went about explaining Angelica. It would have been very easy, and honestly, I would have been fine with it. Like, my assumption was for a good while that, he turned, essentially a slave contract. It just revived her. A lot of shows would have done that, and it would have been fine. Would I have been mad by it? No. I just probably wouldn't have said it's the craziest thing ever. And while I'm still not going to say it's the craziest thing ever, it's actually a lot deeper than most of these shows would do. The idea of just the combination of it wasn't a singular item. She went down a list of 6 or something items in order to basically allow this to occur. And I think that's really interesting because the show does follow the tropes and trends of the genre. No one should deny that. But it does all these extra little bells and whistles. It's kind of like, I think the best way to describe it, take a generic cut of beef. You cook it. Is it going to taste awful? No. But is it going to taste flavorful? Not really. Really, depending on how you cook it, it might be edible, but it's not going to really taste that flavorful. But if you add all of the spices and you actually, maybe baste it with some butter or something, now you got something that's a lot more enjoyable. And I think that's the best way to describe this show in comparison to a lot of these run-of-the-mill isekais. You have the cut of meat, and you can easily turn it into something juicy and delicious, but they don't do a lot with it, or the most they do is they add salt. But give me some damn garlic powder or something, and that's what this show did, is it kept adding the spice. It never over-seasoned it, but it did it so very successfully. And honestly, it was a very consistent show visually. You can't say that for a lot of these shows that aren't the biggest shows, because ultimately a production committee funds it for a season or a core, sometimes a split core, and they just kind of pump it out, see what happens. If it blows up, sure, we'll keep funding it for more. But if you look at the character model consistency, this show didn't dip. It really didn't. Did animation have a lack of animation at times? 100%, but the art direction was spot on, and I think it really worked for the comedic effect it often worked for. Did I have a couple of issues, like when Haruka killed that guy? Did it really not look like he killed that guy? Maybe it should have been a little more obvious? Sure. Did a lot of the characters not really get a lot of development? Sure. But did I have a fun time for 12 weeks? Yeah, I did. I would gladly watch a season 2. I truly hope they do, because I want to see more Angelica, but if not, I could leave it here and just, in my own head, I can assume where things go. Poor class rep, though. She ain't ever gonna win if Angelica's on screen. Your thoughts down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're out here, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, we got those full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. So today we got Damien Chezix, Big Deval, Annette, AI740, Grant Ferris, Sheen 1815, Napu, and we also have Gun Bunny. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care. You all have a good one.